Good evening one more time. This is our fourth uh, meeting, uh, the fourth lecture for literary text code 313. Uh, we have started last time doing reading together a story by James Joyce, the Irish writer, a story called Evelyn. It was part of his short story collections, Dubliners. As we said last time, in this book, Joyce tried to give a picture of the life in Dublin, his home city. In each story, there is a character not necessarily autobiographical. That is, James Joyce was not always speaking about himself or his life in Dublin, but about different kinds and different types of characters that he has met and lived with and knew well in Dublin. And the collection was called Dubliners because it was not just a matter of different types of characters that he was speaking about, but about the city and what it does to its people. The city in this short story collection was almost a character of its own, and we have read together last time how Joyce spoke about his project of writing the city of Dublin into his books in a way that would uh, make it possible for somebody to construct the city again if it has been deleted from the world. The story Evelyn, as we read last time, is about this young woman whom we see sitting by the window of her home. She lives in quite a poor area of Dublin that is next to a richer place. She is not a child anymore. As we're going to learn, she is now 19, but she sits by the window at the evening, probably the evening of a day off, or perhaps just before people come back from work, because everything is quiet, and she is sitting by the window thinking of her past and of her present, and apparently uh, trying to see the good and the bad things about leaving Dublin and leaving her family and leaving her home to go and marry a sailor who was going to take her abroad to South America in Buenos Aires. She thinks of all of that. She does not present the question directly, but she looks at the place at home. Some of the things she sees with certain feelings of love, of familiarity, and she also complains about what she misses in her life. She describes the hard life she is living and all the hard work that she has to do, and the lack of respect that she is not getting. So we stopped. Actually, the story started, and until we stopped, we have read about 2 pages. She was still sitting by the window, trying to think of all these things. And as we said last time as well, James Joyce is a writer who is mostly known for this kind of writing about an internal monologue or about the workings of the mind of a certain character. We get to know all the characters in this um, in this story mostly from the mind of Evelyn. It's what Evelyn remembers, what Evelyn tells us. But we don't see characters coming and going into the story and actually interacting, except at the end. So, yeah, Joyce was the master writer actually and is of internal monologue, of trying to write what is inside the minds of people. So we stopped with Evelyn having this problem, thinking of what is not so good about her life and what is uh, favorable in the life Frank, her lover, was offering her. Respect, his own kindness, his manliness, um, and the fact that he loved her and was so nice to her. So let's read again. The evening deepened in the avenue. The white of two letters in her lap grew indistinct. One was to Harry, the other was to her father. Ernest had been her favorite, but she liked Harry too. Her father was becoming old lately, she noticed. He would miss her. Sometimes he could be very nice. Not long before, when she had been laid up for a day, he had read her out a ghost story and made toast for her at the fire. Another day, when their mother was alive, they had all gone for a picnic to the hill of Howth. She remembered her father putting on her mother's bonnet to make the children laugh. The evening deepened in the avenue. We are reminded of time and therefore of the place that started the story. Remember, we've been reading uh, long paragraphs and it's all inside Evelyn's mind. And in order to give us, to remind us where we are and to remind us that we are still in the same place, only a couple of moments after we started, this sentence comes telling us that the evening deepened in the avenue. We are reminded of time and therefore of the place that started the story. Evelyn is still sitting by the window watching the street. Some time has passed since the beginning of the story, in which she was thinking of all her life, all that we got to learn about her and her feelings on leaving home. What are the two letters on her lap? She has now, we have a new detail that was not given to us at the beginning. She was described at the beginning as sitting by the window as if she has nothing to do. But apparently she's sitting by the window very deep in thought. And now we know one more detail, which is the fact that she had two letters on her lap. She has probably written these letters to her father and her brother to tell them that she has run away with Frank. Perhaps she has explained her reasons. Perhaps she said why she was leaving them, and the fact that she loved Frank, the fact that she wanted respect, that she wanted a new life. On mentioning the letters, however, more details about her life with her family come up. This time they are all very nice details. Uh, it's as if she mentions the letters, or the story mentions the letters, and then Seeing the letters make her remember that she's leaving, and instead of being happy that she's leaving, she remembers all the good things about being at home. She likes both her brothers, though one more than the other. Ernest had been her favorite, but she liked Harry too. She remembers nice moments with her father, and this actually is important because all the moments with the father that we have uh, described up till now are not happy, to say the least. The father is the one who used to hit them and take them out of the fields when they were playing. The father is the one who used to hit the boys, probably hit the mother, and he only did not hit Evelyn because she was a girl. Um, and he is the one who quarreled with Evelyn over the money for the household. He would not give her money, and then he would ask her to go and buy food for them, and he would accuse her of being a spendthrift. So all the details about the father up till now were unhappy details. But this time she remembers something from their childhood and remembers something when their mother was still alive. So they were a family. And the father takes the bonnet, the cap of the mother, puts it on his head, and perhaps acts as if he is a woman and makes the little children, her younger sisters and brothers, laugh. She is actually drawing a very, very vivid family scene where everybody is happy. First of all, they are all together. The mother is alive, and they are all happy. This she remembers when she sees the letters. That is, when she sees the proof that she is leaving. Her time was running out, but she continued to sit by the window, leaning her head against the window curtain, inhaling the odor of dusty cretonne. Down far in the avenue, she could hear a street organ playing. She knew the air strange. She knew the air. Strange that should come that very night to remind her of the promise of her mother, her promise to keep the home together as long as she could. She remembered the last night of her mother's illness. She was again in the closed, dark room at the other side of the hall, and outside she heard a melancholy air of Italy. The organ player had been ordered to go away and given sixpence. She remembered her father strutting back into the sick room saying, "Damned Italians coming over here." Right, this is a scene that's got lots of events, so let us read it slowly. The first two lines tell us how Evelyn is still sitting, but time is running. Yes, we meet her. The evening starts getting deeper, it's getting late, and she is still sitting. And now, when she's sitting, her time is running. Apparently, she has to leave not just soon, but she has to leave immediately. It is the day that she has to leave. We are reminded again of what she is doing. Inhaling. Inhaling is to breathe. يستنشق. The dust of the cretonne curtain. Now, this act of Evelyn is quite strange. Why would anyone want to sit and smell dust? Both cretonne and dust are not very pleasant, and yet Evelyn is unable to leave them. This is very significant image of what Evelyn wants to do. She is tied down to the dust that she has worked on all her life in this house, and this cheap cloth that has made the curtains of this house. They are unpleasant, but she wants there's something that connects her and ties her to them. And she is also remembering past events. What does she remember now? An organ player plays the same song she has heard on the day of the death of her mother. An organ player لاعب accordion. In a place like Dublin, you could still find people who go playing music to get money out of people, and so this player was playing on that day before she left, was playing a song. This song she knew the air was the same song that was played the day her mother died. Another organ player was on the streets on that day and played that song. On the day of the death of the mother, we know for the first time now, she has promised her mother to keep the home together and to take care of the young brothers and sisters. Being the eldest daughter, the mother probably asked her to take her place once she is gone. Now she will have to break that promise. She is supposed to leave and break that promise. So on the day she is breaking the promise, she hears this song which reminds her of the day when her mother died. When she remembered the mother before, she thought she must not be like her and try to find a different life. Now she is reminded of her promise to her. The two sides of the balance are still being weighed within her heart. Yes, the reminder of the mother, remembering the mother, does not bring one kind of feeling. On the one hand, it makes her feel that she doesn't want to be like her mother. Her mother has lived a hard life in which she was not respected, and at the end she died sick and young. And then she also remembers the mother and remembers that she has promised her to take care of that house and to continue whatever she has started. And this makes her feel that she cannot leave. So both feelings are not are conflicting and quarreling, if you like. Let's read that paragraph again and make sure we understand what each line refers to. Her time was running out, but she continued to sit by the window, leaning her head against the window curtain, inhaling the odor of dusty cretonne. When your time is running out, you try to hurry, but she's not doing anything important, as we can see, to keep her. So we really don't know exactly what is keeping her except her feelings. Down far in the avenue, she could hear a street organ player. And so this is what is keeping her. She's only hearing what a music player is playing on the streets. She knew the air, that's the title of the song. Strange that it should come that very night to remind her of the promise to her mother, her promise to keep the home together as long as she could. She remembered the last night of her mother's illness. She was again in the closed dark room at the other side of the hall, and outside she heard a melancholy air of Italy. Air of Italy because the music player was an Italian. The organ player had been ordered to go away and given sixpence. Yes, he was playing this song, which is probably not a sad song, and there was this sick woman in the house dying, so they did not want the organ player. The father gave him some money and made him go away. She remembered her father strutting back into the sick room saying, "Damned Italians coming over here." As she mused, the pitiful vision of her mother's life laid its spell on the very quick of her being. That life of commonplace sacrifices, closing in final craziness. She trembled as she heard again her mother's voice saying constantly, with foolish insistence, Derevan, Seran, Derevan, Seran. These are either prayers in Latin or in the Irish language, Celtic, um, and the girl, although she remembers the promise, she also remembers the situation of her mother. The promise is asking her to stay, but the image of her mother as sick, unrespected, making sacrifices all the time, and dying almost crazy makes her want to leave. She remembers her mother again, the fate of the mother who worked hard only to die sick and almost crazy. We are back to the beginning point and the decision is made. She stood up in a sudden impulse of terror. Escape. She must escape. Frank would save her. He would give her life, perhaps love too. But she wanted to live. Why should she be unhappy? She had a right to happiness. Frank would take her in his arms, fold her in his arms. He would save her. She is uh, totally unhappy. The memory of the mother, although reminds her of the promise, it also reminds her of the fate of the mother, and this makes her want to change her own fate into something else. And so she she stands in an impulse of terror. The terror is, of course, the fear of being exactly another copy of the mother, which is something she does not want. And she decides that she deserves happiness, and this happiness can only be with Frank. So, what is her final decision now? She decides to leave, and the next paragraph we see her on the quay. The quay is Rasif El Mina. Apparently, they are supposed um, to leave by boat, uh, and they had an appointment to do that, to meet and go together. So she actually gets from beside the window, stops, inhaling the dust of the cretonne curtains, leaves the envelopes for her father and her brother, and goes to live with Frank. She stood among the swaying crowd in the station at the North Wall. He held her hand and she knew that he was speaking to her, saying something about the passage over and over again. The station was full of soldiers with brown baggages. Through the wide doors of the sheds she caught a glimpse of the black mass of the boat, lying in beside the quay wall, with illumined portholes. She answered nothing. She felt her cheek pale and cold, and out of a maze of distress she prayed to God to direct her, to show her what was her duty. The boat blew a long mournful whistle into the mist. If she went tomorrow, she would be on the sea with Frank, steaming towards Buenos Aires. Their passage had been booked. Could she still draw back after all he had done for her? Her distress awoke a nausea in her body, and she kept moving her lips in silent, fervent prayer. So we believe that she has made a decision by actually leaving home and going to where the boat to where they were supposed to board on the boat. But apparently, until that moment, she is not yet settled. Her feelings are not clear, and she is not sure whether she is whether she is uh, going to go with him or not. When he was speaking to her, she was not sure that he um, he was listening, and she was praying to God in order to give her the direction to the decision that could be made. Of course, Frank had already booked the tickets and they were supposed to board immediately. A bell clanged upon her heart. She felt him seize her hand. Come. All the seas of the world trembled about her heart. He was drawing her into them. He would drown her. She gripped with both hands at the iron railing. Come. Okay. Feeling that she is not sure, asking God for the right decision, and stopping to hear what Frank is saying. um, Evelyn was in a terrible conflict. The whistle of the boat was sounding because the boat was leaving, and she just decided to stay. She could not move beyond the quay. No, 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 it was impossible. Her hands clutched the iron in frenzy. Amid the seas, she sent a cry of anguish. Evelyn, Evie, he rushed beyond the barrier and called to her to follow. She stood by the rail of the quay, السور بتاع المينا. She held the rail and decided not to move. He had to go, and after going, started to call her. He first tried to drag her, but he could not. He rushed beyond the barrier and called to her to follow. He was shouted at to go on, but he still called to her. She set her white face to him, passive like a helpless animal. Her eyes gave him no sign of love or farewell or recognition. The story actually ends in a in a surprising way. After making the decision of actually going from her home up to the quay, and at the moment when the boat is whistling, Evelyn decides to clutch the rail of the quay, سور المينا, and stays there almost paralyzed. Paralyzed يعني مشلول. So as if she could not move one step after that. That was her final step. She couldn't do anymore. She stopped hearing him, she stopped moving, and finally she even stopped feeling anything. The conflict has turned her almost into a person who is not reacting. She had made a decision, but apparently a big part of her was not in agreement with that decision. And at the time of bringing to practice, or actually taking that decision into practice, this big thing inside her stops her from moving at all, from moving, from listening, from even speaking. She does not answer Frank, and from looking as if she has feelings. These two paragraphs are written in quite poetic terms, and I would like us to analyze two of the images of that take place in this two last paragraphs ending the story, because they are very significant, and they are almost like the language of poetry that we have been studying for the last two lectures. So the final decision is made at the last minute on the quay, and Joyce uses two very powerful images in narrating this final decision of Evelyn. And we will try to analyze these two images. The first image is all the seas of the world tumbled about her heart. He was drawing her into them. He would drown her. She gripped with both hands at the iron railing. This is an image. She is supposed to be standing on the quay, but she imagines herself standing amid lots of seas, and instead of Frank taking her onto the boat, she felt that Frank was taking her into a deep sea in which she will drown. This is in opposition to the way she saw Frank just minutes ago. Minutes ago, when she was sitting by the window, she saw Frank as the one who's going to save her from the fate of her mother. She's going to be a respected person, a loved person. She's going to live happily because Frank is going to take her with him. Once she reaches the boat, and before she steps on board of the boat, she feels that Frank is taking her into a deep sea in which she will drown. And she doesn't see these seas are tumbling about her heart. She felt that they were inside her, and he was going to kill her by taking her away. And so she held fast onto the railing. She's holding fast not just to the railing or to the fact that she's not going to a stranger place, but she's holding fast to all what she considers dear in that place. she's holding fast with both hands to what she loves in her family, to the promise to her mother, to the familiarity uh, of life in Dublin, and there is, of course, something that is almost superstitious, as if Dublin has this power over people, a power beyond all logic, to make its people love it and stay there. Um all the logic and all the reasoning that Evelyn has been building up throughout the story would reach the conclusion that she should leave. This is the correct decision. But then, at the time of leaving, as if Dublin has some hidden hands that keeps its inhabitants into it and makes Evelyn totally paralyzed and unable to make this decision of stepping beyond the land of this country. If we are to analyze the image, remember we have to decide what kind of image. Is it a metaphor? Is it a personification? Is it a simile? So if we say the seas of the world tumbled about her heart, we are speaking about a metaphor in which uh, Evelyn sees her heart as a person drowning in a storm. So it is comparing her heart to a person who drowns in a storm, and this storm is caused by uh, Frank's desire to take her with him. And she could only save herself by holding fast to the iron. After holding fast, she set her white face to him, passive like a helpless animal. Her eyes gave him no sign of love or farewell or recognition. Again, this image is another very powerful image that explains why Evelyn decides finally not to leave. We are not given any reasons. We are given these series of images to tell us why she finally decides not to leave. We have all the logical reasons throughout the story for her to leave, and then the decision not to leave is not um, is not given any logical backing in any way. It is only given in the form of strong images and unexplained feelings. She has all the reasons not to leave, but on the day of leaving, on the minute, actually not the day, on the minute of leaving, she finds it impossible to leave, and Joyce could only explain this through um, through images rather than any logic. Um, this image compares Evelyn to a helpless animal, to somebody who, not, not even a human being, to an animal who is driven by his instincts and not um, by logic, which is what distinguishes man from animal mostly. And the instincts of Evelyn, her instinct as a mother towards her little brothers and sisters, her instinct towards her country, her instincts towards her family, keep her into this place and keep her from moving forward into another place. So Joyce compares her to an animal, and an animal who does not choose, an animal who is governed by instincts, and these instincts tell him what to what to um, what to do. And she is also passive, but of course she is passive uh, when it comes to leaving Dublin, but she is not passive when it comes to contradicting Frank, because uh, she is a helpless, passive animal in her uh, in her connection to Dublin, rather than in her connection to Frank. Her eyes gave him no sign of love or farewell or recognition, and suddenly, with the instinct of the tie to her country and to this place and to her family, all her other feelings have totally disappeared. She does not love him anymore. She does not give any sign that she has even known this person at any time. And she does not apologize. She does not say goodbye, farewell, or she does not even tell him that I know I was wrong. She stays in this place, and she um, she is steadfast uh, in her decision, which is against all logical logical thinking that uh, she has developed throughout the story. And although I started with saying that it is a surprise, the ending is a surprise, I think that with that if we read again, if you come to read again for the third time this story, you will find throughout the story and in every line this secret connection to the place, a connection that makes us expect this kind of decision that Evelyn is going to make at the end. The inhaling of dust and creton that starts off the story and is and recurs again midway through the story, in its own makes us feel that this is a girl, this is a woman who cannot uh, untie her relationship to this place. Next time when we meet, we are going to see how we can write about this story using all the critical terms for analyzing a literary text. Thank you.